Nonverbal communication is a key idea there, and I always want to emphasize that because too often the two key ideas for me are listening in terms of communication, the ability to be a good listener, and I think that you have that natural ability to be a good listener. I've seen that in our interactions together. You pay attention, you listen well, you ask good questions. Sometimes people just listen to reply. In their mind, they're just thinking about what they're going to say next, rather than listening to understand and really, just absorb what's happening, what the person is communicating, and then finding ways to respond appropriately. So that's a key skill, is listening. And then nonverbal communication is related to all of the signals that we send, and signals is a form of communication. And we send many signals that aren't directly related to the words that we're using. So if you've ever heard someone say it's not what you said, but how you said it, that might have bothered them or impacted them. That's the idea of nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
And studies have shown that somewhere around 80% of all communication is nonverbal rather than verbal. And so what we mean by that is you're going to interpret what I say and do based on more than just the words I use, but the tone of voice, which is a nonverbal part, right? If you just flatten the communication down, if I just sent you an email with an entire lecture, all you'd have is the email, the words on the page. That's basically like reading a book, right? So you can read a book and get the content, but when you're dealing with humans, my tone of voice, my emphasis, my gestures, my facial expressions, the way that I use my body, how I stand, my posture, all those things relate to the nonverbal side of communication, and they tell you a lot more about what's going on. How do we communicate? So that's nonverbal communication. We'll kind of come back around to the formal communication. We can talk about that later. Electronic communication, some of the challenges there. So, what we face now with so much virtual online meetings and conference calls, Zoom and Teams, and the Skype and other forms of communication versus email or text message and other things. So that gets to this idea of channel richness, which we'll come back to.